Okay, everybody. Great. I am glad you've joined us here. We've got a good conversation lined up, and I want to welcome Jared with Two Tracks Malting. Jared, good to see you, and thank you for taking the time today and having a little conversation. There's a lot of things going on in the industry, and I thought we could start things off for our members or people checking it out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Two Tracks and yourself, and then we'll dive into some of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So two-track malting, we kind of started as an idea of how do we add value to what we're growing here in North Dakota. So we knew we wanted to go into the brewing industry. We looked at maybe starting a brewery. We looked at actually maybe growing hops, and we literally had barley being grown in the field in the backyard at the farm. So we went down a rabbit hole. We've been doing this for about 10 years now. We started in in a position where there really wasn't malting equipment that was off the shelf, so we had to get creative and build our own. And then, as of about a month ago, we just finished up our brand new expansion. So this is really the big game changer for us because we're able to um, go from about 700,000 pounds annual production to about 4 million pounds annual production. And we're growing all that on two family farms currently. So both my dad and brother, they're one of the growers, and then we have another partner out in western North Dakota, the Kessels. They're growing as well. So right now we grow everything. We malt it at our brand new facility, and then we supply direct to customers all across the U.S.
That's great. Always interesting to talk to people and get a little bit on how did you get here? And it's not always a straight line. So very cool to see. I wanna hear more about the expansion in a little bit too, because I want to get into that. There's a discussion a little bit about just the industry and what things are happening and all of that. But I first wanted to get into a little bit about what are you hearing? What are you seeing? From the industry. You're someone who I know gets out there and visits distilleries and breweries. You and I got a chance to get FaceTime at a conference. So what are you hearing? What are some of the good stuff? Maybe some of the frustration. You're definitely not behind a desk all day, so I feel like you've got a good pulse on kind of what's going on with these industries, and more importantly, then how are you bringing that back to Two Tracks and trying to solve for it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, good question. So I mean, we've been doing one big trade show a year, which has always been the Craft Brewers Conference or CBC.
Sure.
Last year, I think I did 13 different events, just trying to get the word out, especially with the upcoming expansion. And it's different, right? We've spent the last 3 years kind of at capacity, so we haven't been actively looking for new customers because we just didn't have the bandwidth until the expansion was done. But now visiting with brewers and distillers, it's the market. It's definitely tougher than what it used to be, especially over the last few years. But it's not all doom and gloom. Some of the stuff that some of the speakers at the conferences that I've been at, they're saying the media is portraying closure and closure and closure, but in reality, yes, there's going to be some breweries and distilleries closing, but there's also a very large pool now that didn't exist 10 years ago. I know when we started, there was under 3,000 breweries. Craft distilling was, there, but it wasn't as the ramp up as it's been in the last few years. And now there's, close to 10,000 breweries and distilleries, are in the thousands. And it's a lot bigger market than just starting a brewery or distillery and then, opening the doors and having fun. Now it's how do you position yourself? What makes you different? What makes you unique? And that's kind of where, well, we've had the same issue with two track malting as well. As we're up against a very crowded market as far as malt suppliers. So how do we differentiate yourself? How do we make ourselves unique? And our products can help you become unique and different just because we're the only ones in the world growing certain varieties, malting these varieties. It's the ingredient side that really didn't have any options like in the past, as it was always just a few big malting companies that supplied, imported products that came in. Of course, importing products is getting a lot more expensive, and we don't know what that's going to look like here in the next few months, but
Yep.
everybody is indicating that prices are going to increase, especially on the imported side. So, for us, we just like doing what we do. We're farmers, we're growers, we're maltsters, and we just want to help our customers out. Help a brewery, help a distillery. Kind of share the story of where it comes from. I
Yeah.
think that's one thing that this industry has missed. You have the farm to table movement. Now we're kind of doing this field to pint or field to spirit. It's kind of how we dubbed it.
I love that. I love that. I know I've got a few stickers that say exactly that from you guys, and I think that that field to pint it resonates, and it resonates with the brewmasters, but also that person sitting on the in the tasting room, the tap room, and doing that as well. I think that there has continued to be a focus that I hear about quality. And it's that passion. I mean, it's at the heart of craft. So I completely agree with you that to be able to tell that story. And one of the popular, if you touched on two things that I'm hearing a lot of, and you apparently are too, when you're talking to people, yeah, the T word of tariffs is who knows what that's going to look like, but to have something and be like, listen, we've got a partner in North Dakota, we don't have to worry about that. That's one element of it. I think that kind of gets to be able to speak to, can trace back your line of quality, as well as the other thing you mentioned too that I thought was really interesting, competition. And I like how you took it a couple of different ways, um, because I think sometimes people usually take it one way of what competition means to them or their organization, but I think that brewers, especially, distilleries too, are facing more competition and understanding it different than a few years ago. I wasn't part of the big boom 10 years ago, but they talked about all you really had to do was everyone opened a brewery and if you made semi-decent stuff, if the same stuff that they down the street was, you were doing okay. And I hear brewers at events talking about we've just got to get more focused a little bit on our marketing, our taproom environment, our flavor options, and back to the ingredients. So a great way to be more competitive, you're right, is to change up some of the things that they were doing a few years ago. So I like how that also makes you guys more competitive too, as an option to be able to have different things than sometimes the big guy. So it's definitely being talked about more, competition from a lot of those elements of it. I guess one of
Well,
the things that
that's
I'm curious about, you and I got to be at events. I know you got some stuff coming down the pipe here with some events that you're going to. And is that, a question that when someone comes up and, hey, I'm sure you get some of the things like, oh, great, where are you guys from? Where are you out of? What do I feel like people walk by the booth and they come up, brewery and planning, distillery and planning, like, tell me what you do, why, how you do it. Why you versus, like you said, it's crowded space, versus, the big booth I saw around the corner. um, where do you take that? What do you talk to about a brewery who is trying to figure out if, cha making changes to their malt provider is something that they would try this year?
Yeah, I mean, first off, a lot of people don't hear haven't heard of us because we are smaller. Just because we were at capacity, we couldn't really reach out. So, when people realize where we're from, we're like, yeah, North Dakota. Obviously it's in the middle of nowhere and it's cold. And yeah, it is. Actually, today is freezing, but we specialize in growing grain. North Dakota is one of your top, historically your top barley producing state. So we've had all this barley that's grown here in the state for years, and it's all just been shipped out to other malting companies. So we kind of took a different approach and said, let's be a little bit greener. Let's take it from the field and bring it into the malt house. And I think the farthest field that we have is about 150 miles away. So, relatively close in the grand scheme of things. So we've done things differently kind of from the start. And even when we first started the whole malting side, we were using what everybody else was using. So when you're talking about how to be different and how to be unique, the grain varieties that we first started malting with is what all the big guys were using. It's what's commonly grown. But then we found out that they're mixing it with different grain varieties to hit the specs brewers are looking for, and we just weren't hitting out those numbers right away. So we did what we do best, and put our farmers hats on, and actually visited with the local university who specializes in barley research, and we said this is what we're looking for, and lo and behold, we got really lucky, and they had a variety that worked very well for us. And we got to name it, so we named it Brewski. And that's
Awesome.
what we use in all of our products. So
Yeah.
that kind of was the game changer for us back in 2017, 2018 or so, because that allowed us to have something different and unique that you can't find anywhere else in the world. We're the only ones, growing it and malting it. But it also positioned ourselves that, if you're going to be doing something, you have to do something that you just can't be a me too type product, where you have the same product that everybody else has. So we kind of took a radically different approach and, developed our own grain variety. And we're
Yeah.
actually on the next version of that. We have our own wheat variety. We're the only ones in the world growing it and malting it. We've got a distiller's malt that we're experimenting with right now. That's actually the first time it's been in the ground and going into malting. So we're trying to stay on the cutting edge, but we're not the big guys. Large companies or large malting companies, they've got the budgets and they've got the people who are in every single region knocking on doors, so to speak. We'd love to get there, but for us, we just got to work within our means.
I love that. I think that that's great. I like the Brewski naming, and that's really cool. I didn't know that, and that is that's I love the example too of hitting a wall and how do you figure out how to go around it or over it. But I always think that, and I feel this. I feel sometimes you're thinking about the big guy and all of that, and I've talked to more and more breweries, distilleries, wineries, et cetera, that want to, they're usually the little guy too. They're talking about the big non-craft brewery down the street and all that, or at the store. So I think it's good for people to talk and they say, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to do. I really like the uniqueness of having something like that that you guys can talk about and provide to a different brewery. Very cool. The other thing that came to mind that you're talking about it from I don't see this interaction. I came to an event last week where it was a winery event, and in the room were not just the wineries, but the growers and there was discussion between the two that was really cool to talk about what was coming down the pipe, what they were seeing, different how some of the different climate stuff was affecting this and that, and concerns about some different diseases. But I only knew about one-fifth of what they were talking about. But it was a cool kind of conversation happening between a winery owner and a producer, and growers and the vineyard elements of it, and in craft brewing, I sometimes see that with hops, where you have a grower in the room, and then you have a yeast provider who's in the room who actually helps produce it. But I sometimes feel like malt is like one or two things removed, right? You're talking, so I think that's really cool that you are clearly, as you said, we hit a roadblock, and I put on my farmer's hat and we solved for it. I don't think that a lot of brewers are used to having conversations with someone who's really familiar with it from literally ground to the delivery to the pallet they're receiving. And I think that really helps. I think they want to have some of these conversations too. So pretty cool. Love to hear that. I want to hear you touched on it, and maybe it's not your number one thing, but you mentioned the expansion. everyone, it's January. I think everyone's talking 2025. I agree with you. I think people are getting over the doom and gloom. I think they're kind of tired of hearing of, those occasional closings of those organizations. I think there's a lot more of like, okay, what's this year? So what's on your 2025 for two tracks? Either what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? What's in the queue that you guys are getting ready for that you wanted to share a little bit on?
Sure. I mean, 2025, this is the year that we've been preparing for the last 2 years because the expansion, like I said, just finished kind of right at the end of December. So we're really excited because we're firing up or have fired up the brand new malting system. We're out and about trying to visit with as many people as we can. Actually, this coming week, I'll be down in Kansas City for a Master Brewers Conference. Then I'll be in Nebraska for the Nebraska Brewers Conference. And of course, CBC's coming around the corner here pretty soon. So it's fun to get out and visit with our customers and potential customers. And it's just a way that, we can connect with them, because for us, there's options with malt, kind of how you were talking about hops gets all the glory. Well, yeah, it's because that's what's always marketed for the consumer. Malt is your number one ingredient outside of water. Yet still, people call and like, hey, how's that hop business you have doing? We're like, well, it's that there's a lot of opportunity when you have to educate about, malt. And I think malt has been kind of put into a very commoditized mindset. How you're talking about you have the hop growers there. I think for malt, it's now is especially the time to highlight the farmer, highlight the grower, let people know that beer is an egg product, and it comes from the ground, from the soil. You got hops that are grown, you got malt that's or barley grown that turns into malt. So there's a lot of cool things that you can connect, and that just leads to better conversations, with their customers too. So people who come into the tap room or to the tasting room, and you can say, hey, this is made, and oh, by the way, this is made from grain that was grown at this person's farm, and they go, huh? What does that mean? And it allows you to kind of have a dialogue and create some added value to your own customers through possibly marketing, maybe putting something on a can or a bottle, or just simple as having a picture or a sign in the on the on-site area where you can kind of point to. And that's where we found a lot of our success over the years is we're not for everybody. If a customer is specifically looking at price and price alone, it's just not something that we do well. Just like how you're not probably wanting to sell a case of beer for the same price as the big guys do, in the brewing side. It's we're looking for people who have, who want to work with small business, who have the values, who want to dive deeper into the ingredient world and highlight it and let it shine. Because I think there's a lot of good storytelling that can come out of knowing what goes into the products that you can share or they can share with their customers too. So that's kind of the fun aspect. So 2025, it's us getting out there. It's us rocking and rolling on the new malting equipment. It's going to be an exciting year for us, and we've been doing this for quite a while, and I'm excited too because our new system, there's robotics involved where we don't have to stack bags anymore. I mean, it's vastly different than how my brother and I started this company about 10 years ago.
Very cool. Very cool. Very exciting too. That is awesome. Jerry, I appreciate the time. We will get this out there. We will have your contact information there so that you can people can get a hold of you and email you and call you and say, hey, tell me more about this brewski option. And this is great. I'm excited for you guys and good luck at the coming shows and as you're getting out there more and more. But this is good. I think we could have an entire another conversation in the coming months about some of the things that you mentioned that are onto themselves, an entire conversation a little bit about how, to your point about the competitiveness of having a different recipe line item, the ability to tell that story I'm hearing that too from brewers who are trying to, when they get people in their tap room or they're doing the marketing, that kind of thing is onto itself of saying, how do you differentiate yourself and then tell your story better, whether it's through those tours, through their online marketing, through their packaging. So another good topic for another day, but a lot of good stuff, and really appreciate you taking the time to talk a little bit here and getting a little bit more information on what Two Tracks is doing and what you guys are doing in the future here.
Absolutely. And yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. If you ever get into Bismarck, North Dakota area and you want to check out a craft malting plant, let us know. We're happy to show anybody around. So yeah, we're excited for 2025, and let's have some fun and drink some good beer and drink some good spirits.
There you go. There you go. Well, good to talk to you as always, Jared. This is great, and we'll connect soon. And thanks again for the time.
All right, thanks, Dan.